This podcast is sponsored by CDO Group, the industry leader providing a full range of construction and project management services. CDO Group has managed thousands of projects in all 50 states. Their group of experts provides systems, processes, and procedures to make sure that your projects turn over on time and on budget every single time. With over 24 years of experience, CDO Group is the industry's leader in construction management and general contracting services. To find them, go to cdogroup.com. Hi, and welcome to the Future of Development podcast. My name's Anthony Amunategui, and I'm here to inspire people to find amazing careers in the construction development world. If you like our podcast, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really like our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Hi, welcome to the Future Development Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Amunategui, and today I've got the map lady, Taylor Handschuh. She is one of the LiDAR mapping software technology experts. It's a lot of fun talking to her. Let's welcome the map lady to the podcast. Taylor, welcome to the show. We're excited about having you on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Anthony.
Nice to be here. It's fun to go back and look at you and how'd you become the map lady, right? I want to figure that out. That's a fun name to have. So how did that manifest in your life?
Yeah, so the map lady started, or that kind of became my title because that's what I was providing. And I got into GIS and becoming the map lady because I didn't want to forgo any of the topics that I very much enjoyed. I like geology, I like ecology, I like land use, property, mining, all sorts of different things. And I was doing some environmental assessment type projects. And then, as I kind of picked up GIS for the first time during undergraduate, I just, became really good at it, and maps became my medium. I didn't have to forego any sort of topics that I really enjoyed, and just understanding the spatiality of things, it excited me. I was good at it, and they just kept going. And eventually people kept asking me for maps, and I was serving them up. I'm the map lady.
It's fun, right? It became, to become this specialized part of you, and as technology has changed, right? And you start to really look at how to make maps, we went from 2D drawings to now 3D drawings, right? To be able to really look at a space in 3D. Talk to me about some of the stuff that you're using and how that's transitioning from where it was before.
Yeah. So as I was wrapping up my master's degree, I was approached with, honestly, a sales position with these 3D LiDAR scanners, these mobile scanners. And I've processed aerial LiDAR data before and had worked with 3D in GIS. But I saw this as an opportunity. I was like, oh, wait, I could have access to this equipment and all the wild things that I thought of that I could use it for. So I said yes, and I kind of got into it. And, sooner than later, all the different applications that I loved within 2D mapping or spatial analysis became three-dimensional, and I started reality capture and scanning stuff. It's funny. My father's a photographer. I became a 3D photographer on top of the GIS and on top of the mapping. So it's a really great industry, and a lot of people are coming from many different backgrounds. And I was surprised to find so few people that came from a GIS background in this arena. But attaching location to any data set, whether it's a point cloud XYZ data or just any sort of table, it creates magic. Things that are not related to one another are related by their location, whether it's the other side of the world or right next to it.
So for the audience, members that aren't aware of what LiDAR is, let's talk a little bit about what LiDAR is.
Yeah, so LiDAR is light imaging detection and ranging. So it's a laser pulse, and think about the speed of light and the location that a capture comes from. And if you shoot a beam of light at the direction of something, it used to be from airplanes looking down at the ground. You could account for the amount of time for that laser to come back and know how far something is. So if you account for where the capture is taken from and how fast a light pulse comes back to it, you could kind of draw, almost a bunch of dots of, okay, where is everything relative to where I'm capturing from? And hopefully that wasn't too far out.
No. So let me make sure everybody gets this. So essentially, you're taking a beam of light and you're bouncing it off of an object, millions and millions of times, and every one of those bounces represents a depth. And through that depth finding, that's how you're painting a picture. So it's just literally bing, 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 and you're doing that over a surface, and you do that millions of times, and that's how you get the different heights of an object. Is that true? Is that correct?
Yeah, with heights, especially, when I first got into using aerial LiDAR that was available through like programs like our USGS 3DEP, and, it's available in mass to get, pretty large coverage areas from airplanes. And there's maybe, 2 to 5 dots every square meter on the ground. But, as I got access to the equipment and I got mobile LiDAR scanners that, okay, whether I'm walking around with it or have it on a backpack or I've scanned off of boats, I've gone skiing with them. If you have a mobile LiDAR scanner and you're measuring the speed of light to wherever you might be, you could model, indoors. So not just the height of buildings, but, the stuff around you, or like, working in forestry. I mean, refine me a bit, because I've worked in so many environments doing so many projects for different groups, and just, every day, sometimes it's a different project, whether I'm working outdoors, indoors, in a cave, in a skyscraper, like.
No, it's amazing. So being able to take light and bounce it off and get those measurements, right? Now, let's talk the difference between that and GIS. So GIS, and understanding GIS systems. So geographic information systems. Give me the difference between the two of those. Or one's used for, LiDAR is used for that?
Yeah, so LiDAR can be used within a geographic information system. It can be attached to real-world coordinates. Many people don't attach a point cloud or any of their derivatives after a point cloud to real-world coordinates. There's a lot of advantages to doing this. And so bringing LiDAR into GIS, or, examining LiDAR within GIS, it starts to present many more opportunities for categorizing your data, for aggregating data, for processing your data, for storing it, organizing it, adding location to where these XYZs are, whether they're in, if you're starting location. Oh man, I'm going to go a little bit technical. So if you're scanning, you start your mobile LiDAR capture. Your start point is 000. This is your origin.
Got it. So this is my datum point. So I start everything from this datum.
Mm-hmm.
Right now.
So if you're doing mobile LiDAR scan, it's at 000. And, as you walk around or capture things, your XYZ coordinates of the positions of these dots are going to be assigned, say you have a 100-meter range on your scanner, and they're all going to probably go within, a measurement, of that 100 meters. But you could take those same measurements and add them to real-world coordinates, real-world locations in, Earth projections, in, you probably want to do it on a local projection and then share it in a global projection. A little bit more technical there. But if you attach these XYZs that were, closer to 0, or you put your 000 to, say, whatever your coordinates are on Earth, with this, we can start, doing a lot more things, like, say, give you the coordinates for your kitchen cabinets, or, asset tracking of all sorts. But there's a few steps between those to get to those, these applications and workflows. But they are enabled through the use of location and GIS.
Got it. So we take GIS is essentially the aggregate of all of the information in one place, and calling that a geographic information system. So we're getting all of the, just like BIM is for building, GIS is for ground, right? Where we're taking all of the information and data that we're processing about a topic, and as we start to really look forward, and the digital twin platform is becoming more relevant today than ever before, right? Being able to go out there, we're hearing about Meta. The old Facebook company hired 3 camera folks to go out there and measure and photograph all of these areas, right? So they kind of get a 3D image, picture of all of these spaces, right? So we want an image of the entire planet, right? So we're going to look at it in a whole other way. And as we start to really create this metaverse, this universe of information where we can slip between real reality, right, and ground, and then be able to slip into a virtual reality, right, or from real reality to augmented reality to virtual reality, right? As we're able to slip through these different components, this data that you're collecting becomes way more and more important every single day, right? as you look at all the different places that you're when you're taking these measurement devices into caves or into tunnels or all, what are the different application places that you use this?
So built-in natural environments, the convergence of these built-in natural environments, say forestry applications, I could count the trees in the forest. I could do a volumetric of a right-of-way that you need to clear. I can, if that's in the forest, what other data is in the forest? There's a lot of different data points in the forest. If I'm doing caves or mines, actually my first demonstration I ever did in a cave actually became a search and rescue mission.
Whoa. Wait, so what happened here?
So we were in the cave and we're scanning the cave and actually, we encounter some people and say hello, and it's a well-known cave, so people visit it at of all sorts of skill levels, and we run into people, say hello, and then they come back. They're like, my mother fell in the lake room and she can't get up. And the team that I was with happened to be actually on the, the state underground rescue team. So they went and found her, and I just kind of twiddle my thumbs sitting there in a cave. I did what any other saleswoman who got ditched in a cave would do, is try to sell things to passersby. People keep weird hours in caves. But they eventually carried this woman out, and, the whole fire department came and the sheriff and everyone showed up. And immediately I was like, what if we already knew what equipment could fit through the space? What if we already had okay, and that's just one cave, but if there's any other locations where people are at, okay, what, just a map to get to it. Do these guys know what this area looks like? Some of them do, the cave rescue team's familiar with it, but what can we bring in stretchers? Can we, what sort of access does this place have? Was something that I could figure out with the data if needed, or kick this data to the local sheriff if they don't have it yet. So that was just one example, one story.
So now more than ever, you need to be able to take this measuring process into the cave, map out and measure the entire cave, sizes, all of the different components of it, all the different rooms, all the
Where's
different.
Where's the water?
Where's the transition spots, to really get now you can really take it and create a 3D image of it, right? Really a space where it was a 2D image, and now really start to look at it in a 3D view. Now that transition, I think is really amazing, right? Because the amount of information that you can get with how do I get equipment down there, the volumes of air that are down there, all, really understanding that environment way more than ever before than you could ever do with a pencil and pen, and maybe in a tape measure, and they're trying to measure something. But the difference of it, this is getting you every segment of it, right? Every small spot, every deep spot. This is getting you real actual measurements of the entire cave.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we got stuck in caves today, which I don't mind, because it could go anywhere. But for this one also, what's really great about GIS and other things is it's it's a platform for sensor integration, like you said, wind and other measurements in the cave. What if I have measurements of humidity and moisture and airflow throughout this environment, just like any other data set I could couple it with a LiDAR scan, because it could be a point cloud. Okay, that's sweet. Whatever other sensors might exist in there, or say, let's get out of the cave and go to the surface. If I scanned, my whole block, and I could cross this with the parcel data. Okay, chop up the point cloud by each parcel on the block. There's so many things that you can do with that alone.
No, that's there. So now we come out of the caves, right? So we move our way out of caves. Now we move ourselves out. Now we go from cavemen now to living on the surface of the earth. And now we're on the surface of the earth. And the LiDAR technology you're using to scan, what are some of the ways that you're doing this? Is this all handheld? Is this stuff that's being flown by drone? Is this being flown by planes? Talk to me a little bit about how are you capturing, where's the LiDAR being connected to, and how's it capturing the information?
Yeah, so personally myself, I still need to find time to do my my knowledge test and get my 107. So I don't fly, but that is totally okay. Because I collect data with handheld scanners. Sometimes I'll wear it on my back. One time I wanted to scan, they moved the London Bridge to Lake Havasu, and I went down to the dock and I was like, hey man, I got this laser in my backpack. Can we 3D model this bridge? And I just kind of picked up a dude with a boat, and we went on the boat and scanned the bridge from the boat. I did take it skiing. I rode it. Sorry.
So he's sitting there on the side of the water. And you're like, excuse me. A girl with a backpack shows up and goes, I want to laser a bridge. Now, today that might be a little bit awkward. I'm not, when you say laser bridge or, a backpack and someone I don't know.
I'm going to make a 3D model. It's art, it's data, it's technology. It does bring up a lot of other questions that I don't think we'll deep dive into right now, unless you really want to help me with those type questions. But I definitely kind of surprised some people out of nowhere all the time. People stop me all the time when I'm scanning, like, what are you doing? They always hit me with the Ghostbusters joke. It kind of looks like, big backpack, like, I tell them I ain't afraid of no ghost. But yeah, I think one of my breakthrough moments and when it really kind of was when I put my name on the map was when I took the equipment skiing and I rode it up the ski lift and I scanned down onto the hill and then I went back and forth and within one run, I modeled the whole ski run and processed it in about the same amount of time that it took to run down the mountain. And it was just, it was a pretty impressive application and use. And, the fact that the mobile technology is at a point where, I guess more technical, is like the registration to be able to solve that environment. So as we're moving through a place and I'm shooting a laser, in different directions, we use, say, like SLAM is like a type of algorithm that would account for where I am or where the capture is taking place versus what's around us. So I know where I was when each capture was made. And the ability to do this, to automatically register within a local scene within 000 and not real world coordinates yet, is, where our technology is at right now. And it makes it very, very usable, very, very easy to manage this stuff, and even in post process. So kind of anyone can scan, you can put it on anything. There's definitely best practices and ways to make really great scans and use it in tricky environments. But, I gave one to my grandmother and had her walk around the apartment and she was able to do it. So
your grandmother LiDAR'd her apartment?
Yeah. That was, just as an example of how simple it is to just move about a space. You just move this equipment through a place, whether my Nana's got it or whether it's on a vehicle or, some boat who's like, where do you want me to go? We could model the world around us with, we could, it's even enhanced when we have other data points from GIS and real world locations. So
that's awesome. The more and more technology that we integrate into the job site, the more information that we capture about a space, for many, many years, the construction industry it was very segmented and information did not transition very well, right? A lot of times we would go out and gather all kinds of, the site measurements and all the things that are on a site, utilities, layouts, all the things that happen on those components, and then we go from there. Then we start to do drawings, right? And oftentimes the stuff that we learned in the beginning doesn't translate to the second section, right? And in the second section, we gain a lot of information about the building, right? The way it lays out, the way people are going to access it, all of our design development stuff, and then we transition into construction, and then we go through construction, and there's a whole new set of data that gets created in there. And then we give it to operations, and we spend the next 20 years trying to figure out how to operate the building. And then, it dies, and we start this whole thing over again. Rarely does the information that we gather, and I think today we're starting to see that, GIS is really the start for really understanding a piece of property. And now how do we capture that? And it stays with, it's like the title. It stays with the title of the property. And I think as we look at the metaverse, this is one of the spots where blockchain technology captures that and it holds it with a piece of property, right? Now I can take that and I couple it with the BIM modeling that I do with the building I'm going to build, right? The design development portion of it where I'm doing this in a 3D model. Then I communicate to the subcontractors in 3D aspects what work I need to have done. And then as I complete the work, I can see I get augmented reality where I'm looking at the model in 3D, but now I'm also looking at it in reality, right? So I'm looking at both, right? The space I want to build and the space that I am building, and really creating red line drawings as I go through it. So taking that GIS, starting with really great GIS, that's the fundamentals for what we're doing.
I think it's an incredible way to handle data, manage it. You mentioned it going with the title, and I have some groups that they got into this, they started scanning, they got clients, and they're like, what do I do with all my data? And who actually should, keep it at hand, or like, does it sell with the property? Yes, I think it should go with the title. Should it be, associated with some sort of fungible token? Why not? But like it is, I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole, because I could take every piece of the building and tokenize it and account for it, during construction process. I think I haven't touched on, the power of temporal data, or sometimes some people say the fourth dimension of, if I scan a job site once, if construction's happening and I happen to scan it once, there's a lot of useful information I could get, whether it's, the as-built and compare it to what the plan is or where we're at. Tokenize the work, or proof of work for every single day. Like, that's something that excites me. I had this whole idea about 3D foreman, like what happened at the site every day, and who's out there. You could even, say, okay, run up on the site, post all the jobs you need done to a certain specifics out front. And, the scan's been done at the end of the day, and it automatically updates what needs to be done and what jobs are available on the site, is something that I've, daydreamed about many times. But, even on type of, going back to data management and organization, I think GIS really holds the key to useful interoperable data and data standards, which there's a lot of entities rallying for. Okay, how are we going to make this useful to everyone? What do we need? What components do we need to have? Or how can this data be digested? And I think GIS has a lot of the answers as to, okay, how should this data be stored or, formatted to be useful to everyone, although there is no 100% consensus on it yet.
Wait, hold on. When you find 100% consensus in anything, my guess is that's the day they're putting dirt over top of you. Because I can tell you right now, in this business, it just blows me away with the amount of, everywhere we go, and we've got lots of opinions. All right, by the way, we're also going pretty fast. The speed by which we're developing today is never been faster. To build something, some of the things that we're doing today in days might have taken companies, seriously, months and months and months to do things. We're today doing projects that used to take a couple of years ago, 6 and 8 weeks. We're now doing them in 11 to 14 days. Right? You think about the speed by which we're able to communicate, paint the picture a little bit brighter, right? In order for us to paint the picture of the job site, the amount of information that's on there, and what we're doing. So as you start to take this GIS information, right? As you start to scan this spaces, and certainly you can see a future where scanning will happen all day long, every day. Right now, how does the computer and AI take that math, because it's a massive amount of data, right? Each one of these scans is not a small file, right? And it takes quite a bit to grab that. But as we get that, now it interprets the difference between the first one and the second one, right? And you can see very quickly how that will transition into work completed, right? And progress. And all kinds of different, in fact, all kinds of things we can't even see today, right? We can't even see where this is going to take us. Well, I think that's one of the coolest things about growth is as we break through these new barriers, we don't know where we're going to end up, right? It's kind of scary a little bit, right? Because you're like, I want to know, I need to know. But then you also don't know, like, okay, this leads to something else, right? Oftentimes looking forward, it's hard. When we look backward, sometimes it's a little bit easier to connect the dots, right? Because you kind of look back and go, oh, we did this. Oh, and that made that. Oh, and this made that. It makes a little bit more sense why the dots connect. It's a little bit harder looking forward, right? To connect the dots, to know where we're going to be.
I would speak to, people who are uncertain about what's next and maybe holding back from jumping into this stuff because they don't know where it's going. I'd encourage them, of course, to start now because, one, if you want temporal data or change data or before and after, you're going to have to wait that much longer if you hesitate to get that, get now, whether you have a data standard or not. We have all the tools to make use of this stuff, no matter what the standards are or, where we go. Like, we have the ability to make use of it and have it, and we're never going to have that baseline until we do it. So why not just jump in and get it sooner than later? questions about, data formats, if you're flexible and you have the right tools to handle this information, it becomes moot, especially if you have good data management and storage practices. And you can always, have the original data and reform it into whatever, are the requirements for that project or become the standards in the future. Just collecting robust data and understanding what has been done to this data, where it represents, because, we mentioned even taking pictures of something. I'm doing a wind farm. I have pictures of windmills. Okay. All the windmills look the same, attach them to location, and we have a little bit more assurance of which windmill it is. This is another great way to organize this data because, okay, maybe this windmill, we got the first picture this year. This one, we got the first picture 10 years ago, attach it to location, and, the GIS can manage the rest of it. But, kind of where I took my edge was, having these tools, because yes, I could think about these things all day and, be ahead in the clouds, and that's awesome. But at the end of the day, like, the name of the game is, having it at hand and being able to, actually go out and capture this data and make the use of it. And so that's why kind of I left this consulting, pie in the sky ideas all the time into like, okay, I'm an outfitter, and whatever your pie in the sky idea is, I got the tools to make it happen. And I also have the ability to teach your team how to, handle this and how to make use of it and process it for whatever need be. So I figured I'd go for the gusto and become the source of it. Why not?
Well, oftentimes I think the people around me go, I don't know, we can get all his pie in the sky ideas, because I come up with some pie in the sky ideas. There are, I see a future where this technology, through reading books like Life 3.0 and reading, all kinds of stuff from, different great writers, and talking about where the future is going to be, and really start to liven up my imagination, right? To really look at what's possible, right? When I get out of the realm of being, those folks who are afraid of the future, like, oh my God, it's going to take my job. Yeah, great. If it's taking your job, you probably had a shitty job, right? How can technology partner with me? How can my life become better? If I can get rid of the stuff that I don't want to do, what's the stuff that I really can do, right? Where can I really become, what can the future really hold for us as we start to get rid of the menial tasks, the repetitive jobs that are just, arduous and not very inspiring. And how do we take that creative part of us, right? That part of us that's just real intuitive and creative and has the ability to really look at things in a different way. I think that's the thing about human beings that are amazing. As we start to really unload all the load of stuff we have, and we get present to the world, and it's moving a little fast. A lot of us are drinking off a fire hose and afraid to admit it, that we're struggling to keep up, and it stops us. That fear kind of stops us in our track. And I say, stop being afraid, get heads up, really look at these opportunities, like embrace them, right? Imagine what it'd be like if I said, remember that movie, Yes Man? What if I was a yes man? I said yes to everything. Great. Yes. Yes. Imagine if I could walk through the day and go, yeah, I'll try that. Oh yeah, I'll try that. Imagine what that would be like, as opposed to, oftentimes my fear slows me down, and I kind of look back and go, rarely have I ever been disappointed about something I didn't do, something I wanted to do, and it's always about me saying no to something I wanted to do. Looking back and going, I should have done that. I should have not taken a nap and gone. I can remember I missed out going. What are those things that you fly off mountains? The little triangles, pieces of fabric.
Oh, paraglider.
Paraglider, right? My family went paragliding. I went and took a nap. And I came back, and they had videos of them paragliding. I'm like, oh.
You shouldn't have slept on it.
I see that, like, all of a sudden I took a nap, and I'm like, I could have been paragliding. Imagine how wonderful that was, right? Think about it. I napped while they were paragliding, and now I have to fly all the way back to South Africa, because I'm going to go paragliding off of that mountain. That was Table Mountain in South Africa, and Cape Town. and I'm going to go. I have to fly all the way back there now because I can't have my final breath without going to fly off that mountain one day.
Let me know when you're doing that, and we could put a 3D scanner on the paraglider and capture some data.
I got it. I'm with you, right? Think about how much fun that is. So,
that could get plugged into metaverse type thing and share that experience with everyone else. This is where this stuff is heading.
It is. It really is. It's fascinating the speed by which we are. We're growing. So I continue to be amazed by it. So, Map Lady, tell me some more.
Oh man, where to start? I'm a constant refining process because it's like, it can just pop in anywhere. When I look around, I see data in everything. Like, people, they scrape all sorts of data out of our phones and our activities. But when I look around the world, if I look at any city block, I open my eyes anywhere, I can see interesting relative profitable points of data all around me. So, how do we make it useful? Am I going to send off a whole point cloud to sell someone the dimensions of every building on this block? No. Do they want just a number? Even within the workspace, there's still some people that okay, rewind a bit. I used to get, say 3 years ago, people would be like, I want a reality capture. And I'd be like, what data do you want? What are you trying to do? They call me up. They're like, I need a reality capture. And I'm like, all right, but what are you trying to do? And what information are you trying to make use out of? And, there is a trend now, ongoing of hiding the point clouds. And some people can't look at a point cloud and know what's going on. I look at a point cloud and I also make point cloud art. So I'm just like, okay, cool. That's a really sweet way to look at it. Also, it is a light data set. If it's just XYZ coordinates without any other pictures, it is very little, small amount of data. So I could start, the point or the starting point of any geometry, any shape is a point. You could take a dot and go any direction, make it a line, a regular shape or 3D shape, and there's any which way you could go, just like this conversation about LiDAR and point clouds. But knowing what you want to do with it or how to process it, that really is where the not everyone can do it, not Nana can do it, is. And so, getting these derivatives from, these scans or from, even extracting it out of a self-driving car that's not saving a data, or there's so many angles I could take this from. But the question really being okay, how do I make use of these point clouds or combine it with something else or serve it up to someone else or share it with my clients or publish it? I'm just asking more questions and going to make a little too many places for me to go with this, with those. So I'll try to keep it on that. What's up?
You said something I really love. Imagine self-driving cars collecting all the data from the LiDAR and camera imaging that's processed, right? To constantly imagine what you were talking about, having a world where it's constantly being updated second by second, with thousands and thousands and millions of data points, by vehicles that are out there all day, every day, driving around going, all right, my Tesla's got 8 different cameras on it. Imagine capturing that data and feeding it back into this world where data collection, like you said, I can see data in everything. I can see data points in everything I look at. Everything I look at has a data point to it, which is kind of cool.
So why isn't the self-driving car collecting data like this? Because that's a lot of data to process on the fly. It needs to actually pay attention to children chasing balls into the street. And that's the bigger concern with the self-driving car. They can't as a business perspective, they can't be jeopardizing their vehicle operation for the data point collection. But there's other ways to go about this and also to make it lighter to process. So let's say you have a GIS, and this GIS is the baseline of, where this data is going to be collected. So you could also, you have this 3D point cloud or this, in the back, it doesn't even publish out to any viewers, in an interface, but, where the car knows where it's going through, it could actually even sense, what's different than what I expect with the power of GIS. So maybe it drives past it once and says, there's something different. And then it says, the next car to enter this location can go ahead and actually take a closer look at this and feed that back instead of, loading data all the time. So, that's just, one thought, even of practical application of how to go with it. And, GIS being the backbone and the baseline for, for this information to exist in. So that's, I don't know, they got the self-driving cars around here. and the self-driving trucks. That's actually out of Tucson also. I sometimes see them on.
No, it's amazing. You guys are like the test ground for all of that stuff up there. It's pretty darn amazing. As your mapping, people want to hire you and they want to find you. Where Taylor, where can they find you? How can they get a hold of you? How can they hire you to do mapping for them?
Yeah, so the best way to get a hold of me is through my website, maplady.com. The social that I'm most active on is actually Instagram because, I actually can't deal with most of it all the time. So I'm like, y'all get a picture. So I like Instagram and where I put a lot of my point cloud art and like a lot of my other content. But definitely Taylor at maplady.com. Also through PointCab, of course, we're announcing this week that I'm the U.S. master reseller for PointCab, which is pretty exciting. So not only do I make sure this gets out and all the, the business aspects on the U.S. side is managed, but, all the applications for this of, any scanner, even the iPhone, everyone can collect point cloud data pretty much at this point. So how do they make use of it? So I've teamed up with PointCab to do that, and you can definitely get a hold of me through them as well. There's if you see my van driving through your town, I'm on the road. I am a van lifer, and I am on tour. I'm on tour all year round, and I love it. It's how I do it. So, I'm all over the country. I have stops coming up. I'll be in Colorado like next week for Geo Week, and I have some Northwest stuff happening. I mostly go between Tucson and New York. But yeah, you can wave down the van because I'm literally all over the country year round and on tour constantly. So
we got to get you. We got to get you like one of those little things that we can track you, a little tracker, and track the map lady on my Find My iPhone. So Taylor, I love talking to you because you have so much knowledge, and your conversations always wind up, and they just get me excited thinking about different ideas. People can get a hold of you at maplady.com, right? We'll make sure we get a plug for the website. And if they want to hire you, they can get proposals, all that stuff from you from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, also, Anthony, I love listening to your podcast. Like, I'm driving around all over the country listening to Future of Development, like jumping up and down, like, oh, that idea, like trying to riff off of it. And like, I guess I also do Clubhouse. It's almost like a podcast you can talk to, but, Future of Development, I'm just like, oh man, that's where my head's at.
Good. Well, thank you. Like all you people out there, if you like this podcast, hit the subscribe button. If you really like it, hit the bell. We're glad to have you on here, Taylor, and Mrs. Map Lady. Lots of luck to you, and Miss Map Lady. We're glad to have you on here, Taylor, and look forward to having you on some more as more progress continues to be made. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. My name is Anthony Amunategui, always looking for people to bring insight into the industry, finding ways to inspire people to have amazing careers in the development world. If you liked our podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really liked our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Thanks again for listening. Please share it with your friends.